The Super Bowl is upon us, and as usual, generally around this time of year, we hear allegations of human and sex trafficking of minor children during the Super Bowl. There is no doubt that there's enough documentation out there provided through research by the FBI and other organizations that monitor human trafficking and trafficking in persons. We do find that at some point, some data does suggest that children or minors under the age of 18 are more likely than not to be human trafficking victims. But what does that actually look like at the end of the day? And what does that mean for the NFL and the Super Bowl? The African American Juvenile Justice Project, founded by Sherry Jefferson, is known for their area of expertise as SOLD, sex, organ, labor, and drug trafficking in the United States. With programs like Just Us, juvenile urban sex trafficking in the United States, Female Not Female with 2 E's, and Be Me, Black, Endangered, Missing, and Exploited. Through that medium, it gives us an opportunity to look at some of the data that is available as it pertains to human and sex trafficking. We know that according to the FBI recent report, that there are about 341,000 missing children in the United States, of which 146,000 identify as Black or African American. White and Hispanic numbers have been combined recently under the Biden-Harris administration. That changed previously under Trump administration, and they look for it to change again now so that each group has a separate and distinct numbers to allot for those that are missing and exploited. Why is that important? Because when you have events like the Super Bowl, where there's hotel, industry, entertainment, wealth, those are the ingredients for children, those under 18, being presented to adult men and women alike for sex, hence human and sex trafficking. We know that whether the Super Bowl hits major cities like Atlanta, Los Angeles, and even areas like Louisiana, that these hot spots are areas where people go to convene. Mardi Gras, places like New York, the New Year ball drop. Major cities like that attract consumers from all over the world. But they're also known for something else, a high degree of the ability to hide the unthinkable. When you have cities like Atlanta, a hub for human trafficking, a city like New York City, Los Angeles, California, Las Vegas, and Louisiana for Mardi Gras and those other type of events, these are cities that are particularly chosen for their tourism. And wherein you have that type of activity, you're more likely than not to attract individuals who may very well participate in human and sex trafficking. But what exactly does that look like? We know for the Sean Combs case that there were allegations of sex trafficking of his quote unquote former girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, also known as Casey. We do know that as a result of the prosecution that took place in the Second Circuit in New York of the Southern District of New York under the former prosecutor for the United States Attorney General's office, Damian Williams, that Mr. Combs was charged with sex trafficking, false imprisonment, and kidnapping, along with prostitution. We know the jury returned a verdict of not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, but guilty on the Mann Act. The Mann Act is a law that went into effect for what they called the anti-white slavery or sex trafficking law. It was designed to target Black men who pursued relationships with white women, even if those relationships were consensual. And what it would look like is that these individual men, like the former U.S. boxer and multimillionaire, at the time deemed one of the wealthiest Black men in America, Jack Johnson, would be found guilty under the Mann Act, even though the white woman he was with was engaged in a consensual sexual relationship. The law basically suggests that any Black man that's dating a white woman must be doing so by force and duress. And that even wherein that person agrees to have sexual intercourse with them, it must be under the auspice of fraud, forced, hence prostitution. And he was found guilty of that, just the same as Sean Combs with the likes of a Casey Ventura. Why is that important as we look at the NFL? Because as we look at the NFL and the Super Bowl, year after year, there's a lot of information. Many of it is misinformation, wherein they assert directly or indirectly that there's a lot of human trafficking transpiring. Is it? Let's look at that. From 2014 to 2026, a period of 12 years, we looked at recent data that was available and also other journalist reports on this matter. But we relied heavily on documentation and information available to the African American Juvenile Justice Project because it's a lot of the Black girls that are being victimized. A lot of these incidents are simple. And what I mean by simple is respectfully this. It's you take these young girls that are under 18, you offer these girls a weekend or opportunity to make money. A lot of them are not aware that they are going to be forced to stay in hotel rooms wherein they will be engaging in sexual activities with multiple men and sometimes women too. Many of them do not understand that they are in fact victims of human and sex trafficking. Rather, for some of them, they don't even understand that the person that they're with, what they call a Romeo, a male pimp who's actually a boyfriend, has in fact used them for the sole purpose of them engaging in sex acts with other individuals through what is hence called forced prostitution. So wherein these individuals are 18 or younger, they are now deemed victims of human and sex trafficking. But for most of them, in their minds, this was a boyfriend, someone who had taken the time to quote unquote groom them. They were not aware that they were being groomed for the sole purpose of being able to attend events like the Super Bowl so that those girls could be offered up for sexual pleasures that will last throughout the entire Super Bowl weekend. For those girls and many more like them, some who are white and or identify as non-Black, non-white Latinas, those individuals fall under the auspice or the system of what we call sex trafficking. They have been misled to believe that they're gone on these trips and these vacations with boyfriends to ultimately be faced under drugs, duress, and even violence for them to continue to participate throughout the entire weekend to provide sexual favors. These sexual favors will include, but may not be limited to, oral sex, anal sex, vaginal sex, group sex, acts of lesbianism. Some referring to it as menage a trois. Those girls do not know that. As far as they're concerned, they're being forced to have sex with other women while they also are being forced to have sex with men, and they have not agreed to do those things. Many of them will state that they're doing it under the influence of drugs and or alcohol. Some of them are unaware at the time that the drinks that they take and or consume, or even food products, respectfully, are in fact consumed and include as an ingredient drugs. And some of these drugs do everything from allow 2 to 3 men to engage in sexual acts with the same girl. Some of them are available on videotapes. Some of these men have their penises in their mouths, vagina, and anus. And you can see the teardrops coming off these girls' faces and the moans from the pain. But because they've been drugged up, they themselves are not able to articulate. To watch or witness it, the video that is, you would think, well, are these consenting acts? You soon learn that these are not consenting acts. Not at all. But the girls are under such an influence of drugs or alcohol that ultimately they do not know that they're unable now to consent, to say yes or to say no. That's human and sex trafficking. But there's also another form, which doesn't look as obvious, respectfully. And that is what's happened even with car services like Uber and Lyft. For years, we've been stating that from the research we reviewed through the African American Juvenile Justice Project, that a lot of these girls that use the Uber and the Lyft services were part of a human trafficking and sex trafficking operation. And what that looked like is these individuals who had the Uber and or the Lyft cars, particularly Uber, they would already have 2 or 3 girls in a vehicle, depending upon the type of vehicle. And that particular vehicle, whether it had 1 or 4 occupants, would go to a hotel for pickup or go to the airport for pickup. And you would think that those individuals had access to a shared ride. Not in the operative word of shared ride, but in the sense that you're going to share the ride. You're all headed to the same direction. That would be an opportunity for many of these men to be able to meet these girls in the vehicle. And then those girls would be assigned to one of those gentlemen, if not two or three. Many of them were in town for conventions or events like the Super Bowl. They would then transport from the airport to a nearby hotel where those girls will ultimately belong to those men, those travelers, those visitors for the duration of their visit. We have witnessed and you observe a lot of that, notwithstanding the class action lawsuit that is pending against Uber that's allowing for victims who've been in an Uber vehicle, who have been the subject of sexual assault, to receive compensation. Those monies and resources are still available for those victims. They need to exercise their opportunity to receive those funds. But that being said, there's something unique about that process, because do those girls know that the gentleman that they met who's driving the vehicle is actually pimping them? Or do they think they're simply there to host these gentlemen, to take them around, to show them the town, to engage in acts that would otherwise be deemed acts of tourism? Are they aware of that? In many instances, they're saying they're not. Some of them are college students who ultimately truly believe that they're taking on a part-time gig with the sole intent to make additional money during the Super Bowl week. And during Super Bowl week and weekend, that's what they think they're doing. You meet this person, you've been assigned to this person. As a result of being assigned to this person, you will travel with this person. You should know the city. Here is a map and a guide. So in your mind, college girl, you're honestly thinking that's what you are doing. But we're finding out for many of them, that's not what is transpiring. What we're learning is that during events like the NFL Super Bowl, just like NBA All-Star Weekend, which we'll touch base on that during those type of events, those girls should know or have reason to know that the services that are being expected of them are more than what they bargained for. Or should they know that? If you're an innocent student at a local college or university and you see online or you see advertisement on the campus that says you can make a few dollars during the NFL Super Bowl, you tie in the legitimacy and the legality and the popularity and the notoriety of an NFL brand. And you're not thinking that if someone has offered you employment opportunities working through this channel, that you are in fact being lured as a victim or can become a victim of human or sex trafficking. You literally think if this person is associating themselves with the NFL brand and it's online and literature is being made available and accessible on campus, that this is a legitimate NFL associated or assimilated program or service. And so wherein you think that, and you identify and label and recognize Super Bowl to be associated with that same brand, you don't think that you're now going to be set up to be victimized and or abused. So you're thinking, I get to know the state of California. I reside within the proximity of the programs and services offered by the NFL during Super Bowl. I live in this area, or I'm being flown to this area a day or two in advance. Here's my package. I am hosting. This is very similar in part to what happens during the Olympics, too. Oftentimes, major corporations will get together and they will hire people to serve as hosts for their guests. And their guests are elitist and well-to-do. And those women, particularly, many of them will be college students, and they will be expected to take this group with them, take them around. If they're bilingual, speak the language for them, and then ensure that that person has great travel experience. The innocence of that is very simple. You're being compensated, a reputable corporation. You think they're paying you, but are you in fact being lured to do more than that? And that is what generally transpires during the NFL. And so the NFL ultimately, as a league, a corporate entity, as a brand, often ends up with this negative stereotype labeling them as the problem. Wherein the NFL's position is we don't promote and or associate and or engage in the acts of human and or sex trafficking. But because it takes place during the Super Bowl, what might the NFL and NBA do? when you think a fast forward ahead for All-Star Weekend. Look at the venues that they choose. They have purposely and strategically chosen cities like in Atlanta, known as Black Chocolate, known as a city with all of these strip clubs, known as a city for prostitution of Black women and girls, known as a hub for human and sex trafficking. When you choose a venue or a city like that to host your events, or a city like Los Angeles, California, equally known for the same, or Las Vegas, or New Orleans, Louisiana, or a city like New York, it's very difficult after a while for the NFL to continue to state that they're not aware, directly or indirectly at this point, that the host cities that they have chosen are known for these areas of sex trafficking and human trafficking, strip club industry, prostitution, online solicitation through IG. It is difficult to understand that even X, under both Elon and when it was Twitter under Jack Dorsey, and Meta, which now owns Facebook, former Facebook, and IG, Zuckerberg, that these individuals can state that they have no clue that these platforms have been utilized in this manner, because it did. For years, we've heard IG girls claim we're IG models, Instagram models. They are not. 90% of them, if not more, are not models. These are girls that are engaging in prostitution under a different brand, and they're marketing themselves differently. And so wherein you have events like NFL Super Bowl, you simply, for a lot of them, they can go to IG. And these girls are marketing themselves as models that are equally able to host events, fly in, take you around, show you the city and show you the town. And although they don't label and say we're offering sex, and this is the fees associated, at some point, Zuckerberg and Meta know or have reason to know that's exactly what the IG platform is being utilized for. And the same is true of X now under Elon, wherein there's a lot of pawn hubs and bots being used in an effort to solicit and sell drugs, sell sex, and engage in labor and human trafficking violations. We see that a lot when a lot of them even come into an app. In my direct DM, under Lisa Hampton, some of the things I witness and see for myself, 181 men are coming in through my DMs, and they come in under one app, and they control that app. And everything is, you Jewish bitch, she's a Jewish whore, she's a Jewish porn star. I'm none of those. I know that you do porn. No, I do not. I know I have pictures of you in a video. No, you do not. I've never engaged in that app. I've never had anyone go up my tail. I have virgin anus. Like, I listen and I read all this stuff they send to me. Once they need to take his 22-inch boot and go all the way up my ASS. Like, really? The only person I know with a 22-inch boot is Shaquille O'Neal. And then they come back and they throw out Reeves' name. Well, Reeves is the president of the NFL Players Association. I admire what he's done for the NFL on that side. Definitely different from the likes of the Gene Upshaw days, respectfully, right? So I get a little bit of the NFL and NBA players. They all come in under this little special app, and they all come in with all the slurs and the disrespect. Don't know how you think you can get a young woman like that, or an older woman either, respectfully. So that being said, the point that I'm saying is, when you use these porn hubs, because that's exactly what those are equivalent to, someone like X is supposed to know that that is what's transpiring. The uniqueness of it, they can come in and out of your DM without you actually knowing what's going on. Those are the same type of apps that when you click on a person that you don't know, who's visiting, who's coming through, and I mean by visit, somebody who's trolling your page, and they might leave a like, or they may leave a comment, and you click to visit their page, and you say, well, these are women. I'm not a lesbian. Why are these women all associated and trying to associate themselves with my brand? And why are they offering me? Do you want money? Can I pay for school? Can you do any of that? I laugh. Like, really? You serious? Do you know how old I am? Like, you gonna pay for my school? Like, you think so? Okay, yeah, whatever, dude. That being said, that's how a lot of the younger girls also get lured in too. Because the solicitation starts that way. Can I buy you something? Can I do something for you? And so wherein you think that someone's willing to assist you and there is no strings attached, then you yourself set yourself up for failure. There's always a string or two attached. So for a lot of them around this time of year, coming in from November to about now, where there's Super Bowl and NBA All-Star Weekend going on, they're coming through our DMs like that, offering to pay you. Do you need money? Is there anything I could do for you? Because at that point, you become the person to whom they wish to target for travel purposes. So wherein you think of human and sex trafficking during the Super Bowl, don't simply think of it as some boy meet girl or some total stranger action. A lot of times it's individuals, even like us, who are being groomed by these guys to say, I have something that I think you need. I have money, I have power, I have connections, et cetera, et cetera. And they're hoping that you become like a Casey Ventura type where you're so gullible, right? And your so-called 19-year-old self. Imagine that. And then 10 years later, you're claiming you're a victim, right? When did you become a victim? So for a lot of us, we have to be accountable and responsible for victimization too, and what that looks like for us. So for a lot of us who are being groomed indirectly in these DMs, where they're trying to check you out, see who you are, what you're about, what you're up against. I'm not talking about those who are legitimate gentlemen that are coming in, not that type, right? I'm talking about those who come in on these special apps, okay, and groups, or those who come in individually with the sole intent to lure you, to groom you, to seduce you, solicit you, with hopes that you become their next victim. You become the person that gets to travel with them for NBA All-Star Weekend, for the Super Bowl. You become that individual that they end up owning for that entire week and or weekend. You become that individual that they feel now owe them something in return. And that is their weekend. That is their opportunity to sexualize you for that entire duration. That is their weekend and their opportunity to pass you around too. Meaning you start out with them, but then you end up with someone else. You know, they used to refer to those terms similarly situated to the freak-offs of Sean Combs. But the freak-offs that he's doing or that he's been accused of doing also involve a lot of them going into multiple partners. And it wasn't something that he just started with, Casey Ventura. There are other allegations about him engaging in that act with other women. And some of them understood exactly what they had signed up for, but also some of them did not. There are many who don't recognize being passed, meaning you start out with one athlete or entertainer, that individual dates you, pursues you, and then he passes you off to someone else. So wherein you use these titles that you're quote unquote girlfriends, the question begs, are you really the girlfriend? And that's important when understanding human and sex trafficking. What is your official title with this person? And then if you have a Kim Porter in your life, like Sean Combs did, what becomes of a Casey Ventura? Do you really seriously think you are the quote unquote girlfriend at that point? Or are you the person to whom he gets to travel with, to whom he gets to pursue you in a way that allows you to be passed around or enjoy sex with someone else, consensually or not, right? Do you become that person? So for all of you who are victims, there is a difference between a vic and a trick. A trick is the whore, the 304, who knows what she's signing up for. And that's not necessarily someone who's a stripper. You have a lot of girls that are tricking out here. Like they're meeting guys. It's sex in exchange for, Birkin bags and Louis Vuitton travel collection, plane tickets, private jets, travel, mink coats, jewelry. That's tricking also. But in your mind, you might think that you are the girlfriend. But for them, you're being used for the sole purpose of being trafficked for sex. They're traveling with you for sex. Are the elements of duress, violence, fear, harassment, intimidation, are those factors in the decisions that you make? Maybe, maybe not. For some, they are trafficked without the understanding that those factors or variables exist. But there are others who surely know that they do. And you do have an opportunity to say, when they're communicating with you by direct mail, a DM, or communicating with you by text message that guess what? I'm not interested in this. I'm not participating in this. I'm not a whore. I'm not a prostitute. And I'm not going to allow myself to be trafficked either. Know when you're being groomed and when you're being set up. Victimization works both ways, but understanding whether or not you're a victim is important too. And at what stage do you understand or can you identify with victimization? And that's important also. And so I'm hoping that as we talk about the myth understanding of human and sex trafficking during the Super Bowl and the NFL's role and duties in that you understand that. If you don't, the African American Juvenile Justice Project, they provide programs and services for girls up to the age of 24. Go onto that website, and it's also X at Jefferson and Company. Jefferson, Jefferson and ANDCO. And she's on X. And or go into the African American Juvenile Justice Project's website. And they offer videos. They offer an understanding of what human and sex trafficking is about. And what does it mean to be female, not female? And if you are in those age groups, or you know someone in that age group, or you yourself are older than 24, but you believe you were once victimized, go onto the website. There might be some information there that could assist you in understanding your victimization and what, if any, remedies may be available for you now. But even herein, you think you was a victim. Know that there's a difference between a vic and a trick. Thank you for joining me. This is Lisa Hampton. Love is selflessly authentic, having all money, power, talent, opportunities now. Thank you for